It appeared without warning, a ghost from interstellar space, tearing into our solar system like a messenger from another reality. Astronomers called it 3I/ATLAS, but when AI finally decoded the data, the truth wasn't just strange, it was terrifying. Its speed defied gravity, its trajectory didn't make sense, and inside its fractured tail, hidden signals pulsed, patterns too precise to be natural. Was this a comet, or a probe, a warning, or an invitation? The answers are darker than anyone expected, and they may change humanity forever. So before we dive into the revelations that scientists tried to keep quiet, hit like, smash subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because what AI uncovered inside 3I/ATLAS is something the world was never meant to see. The first warning came in its speed. Most comets drift lazily on predictable loops, prisoners of the sun's gravity. Atlas tore through space at nearly 58 kilometers per second, over 200,000 kilometers per hour. At that velocity, it could cross the distance from Earth to the Moon in under 2 hours. But velocity was only the first sign something was wrong. Its size, reconstructed by AI, piecing together faint flickers from telescopes worldwide, told a darker story. The nucleus stretched almost 10 kilometers wide, an order of magnitude larger than either Oumuamua or Borisov. That wasn't just mass, that was momentum. A frozen giant carrying scars from a journey that began before Earth itself existed. But here's where it gets strange. The algorithms suggested something that defied physics. The glow surrounding ATLAS wasn't fading with distance. It was growing brighter, alive, as though the object itself refused to die in silence. In June 2025, NASA's Atlas survey system caught 4 fleeting exposures of a dim spark racing across the galactic plane. The AI didn't just flag it as another asteroid, it reconstructed its entire past, tracing pre-discovery sightings hidden in forgotten data. What emerged was a trajectory so precise it couldn't be natural. This wasn't wandering debris, this was navigation, and that's when everything changed. The object wasn't cold, it was chemically alive, trailing a coma of gas and dust that whispered secrets into space. Spectroscopic analysis revealed exotic carbon compounds, complex molecules forged in the icy darkness of alien star systems. The AI compared these patterns against thousands of known comets and asteroids. The match? None. Atlas carried a chemical fingerprint unseen anywhere in our solar system. But chemistry was just the beginning. Its color told an even stranger story. Most comets reflect light in shades of white or gray. Atlas glowed red, darker and richer than the oldest asteroids, coated in organic molecules called tholins. On Earth, these compounds exist only in ancient meteorites. Here they wrapped an interstellar traveler like skin, carrying the memory of radiation older than our planet. Was this proof that life's building blocks existed everywhere? Or was it something more deliberate? The AI's rotation measurements revealed another anomaly. Unlike Oumuamua, which tumbled chaotically through space, ATLAS spun with eerie calm. 29 hours per rotation, smooth and deliberate, its light curve flowing like a programmed sequence. No natural comet behaves this way. The evenness defied every law of celestial mechanics, unless something had designed it to spin exactly as it did. But the real shock came when its brightness surged. In just weeks, Atlas leapt from magnitude 20 to nearly 17.7, becoming the brightest interstellar object ever recorded. Its tail stretched over 25,000 kilometers. Not the violent explosion scientists expected, but something measured, controlled, restrained. As if it were following rules we didn't understand. 3 objects have visited us from the void. Oumuamua, long and silent. Borisov, explosive and violent. And Atlas, massive, glowing, impossibly calm. No pattern, no repetition, only difference. But when the AI reconstructed ATLAS's origins, it revealed something that changed everything. This wasn't just interstellar, it was ancient beyond measure. Velocity calculations and galactic dynamics painted a brutal picture. Atlas had been traveling for billions of years, not from nearby stars, but from the galaxy's ancient halo, a place filled with stellar relics older than the Sun, survivors from when the Milky Way itself was young and violent. If the simulations were correct, ATLAS could be 3 to 11 billion years old. Its journey began before the solar system existed, before Earth formed, before humanity was even a possibility in the cosmic dark. Its path defied imagination. The AI traced possible origins through collisions we'll never witness: supernova blasts, star cluster disruptions, planetary annihilation on scales too vast to picture. Atlas might be the last surviving fragment of a system erased from history, carrying the ashes of worlds in its frozen core. But here's what shouldn't be possible. Any object traveling that long should have shattered into dust. Cosmic impacts, radiation, the slow erosion of deep space, nothing survives billions of years intact. Yet Atlas endured, its surface smooth and geometric, bearing patterns too precise to be coincidence. The deeper the AI probed, the more the timeline stretched into impossibility. This wasn't just a visitor, it was a survivor. And what it had survived was starting to look less like chance and more like intention. High-resolution scans sharpened the mystery into something that chilled even skeptical observers. Atlas wasn't jagged or fractured like every other comet. Its surface curved in arcs too precise to be random, bearing ridges and channels aligned like manufactured seams. Frame by frame, the AI reconstructed a three-dimensional model, and geometric patterns emerged from the shadows. These weren't decorative. They carried mathematical ratios embedded in human architecture across history: the golden mean, pi, orbital harmonics. The machine wasn't finding noise, it was finding design. And the designs were speaking in a universal language. But design was only the beginning. Instruments detected something impossible in its emissions. The gases didn't vent randomly, they released at precise intervals, aligned with a 67-hour pulse that beat like a mechanical heart. Each release shifted Atlas's trajectory subtly, making course corrections no natural object could perform. The AI flagged it with a label that sent chills through classified briefings: controlled maneuver. Atlas wasn't drifting, it was flying. Spectral analysis revealed binary patterns encoded within its chemical tail, structured sequences that translated directly into prime numbers. But when the AI pushed deeper, those primes unfolded into coordinates. Not random points in space, but targeted locations, ancient star systems, some long dead, others still burning. And one location that made blood run cold: Earth. The binary pulses fractured into layers, nested codes inside codes. Prime sequences folded into mathematical constants, then spiraled into ratios that map directly onto DNA structures. Adenine, thymine, cytosine, guanine, the building blocks of life itself, written into the rhythm of Atlas's breath. But timing revealed an even stranger truth. The pulse intervals weren't uniform. Each emission shifted by nanoseconds, forming interference patterns that became visible only when weeks of data were overlaid. When rendered into audio, the result was haunting: a rising and falling frequency, tonal and hymn-like, too ordered to be natural, too alien to be human. Some heard mathematics, others heard language, but those who listened in dark rooms heard something alive. Chemical signatures fluctuated in cycles, bursts of carbon and nitrogen forming binary patterns embedded in chemistry itself. When compared against Earth's oldest genetic records, one impossible truth emerged. The sequence mirrored fragments of mitochondrial DNA, the ancient motherline of all human life. Atlas wasn't broadcasting a random message, it was whispering our own genetic code back to us. Meanwhile, the surface itself began to shift, not from rotation or melting, but from reconfiguration. Plates sliding against one another like programmable tectonics, each change aligned with the 67-hour pulse. For brief moments, perfect angles caught starlight, reflecting patterns too deliberate to ignore. Atlas looked less like a comet and more like a signal tower, reshaping itself to be seen. Projected forward, ATLAS's trajectory revealed its final secret. The path didn't lead into the outer solar system as expected. It curved toward Earth's orbital plane with surgical precision, not for collision, but for perfect visibility. The mathematics were staggering. Atlas would cross directly above the equator at the exact moment when 7 billion people could witness its passage simultaneously. But this wasn't just positioning, it was choreography. The AI mapped every gravitational influence along its route: Jupiter's pull, Mars's nudge, even the Moon's subtle tug. Each interaction bent Atlas's path by precise degrees, like billiard balls choreographed across light years. Natural objects don't navigate with this accuracy. They tumble chaotically through gravitational chaos, their paths shaped by chance and physics alone. Atlas was following a flight plan written billions of years ago. The probability calculations sent shockwaves through classified briefings. Less than 1 in a billion that such alignment could occur naturally. But when AI expanded the analysis beyond simple trajectory, the numbers became impossible. The timing of its arrival coincided with humanity's first century of radio astronomy, our narrow window of technological awareness. Too early, and we would have missed it entirely. Too late, and we might not have been here to see it. Atlas wasn't passing by. It was arriving exactly on schedule. Deep analysis of its pulse train discovered another layer hidden in absence: silence as information. Every 31st sequence fell quiet, creating gaps that carried meaning in their emptiness. When stacked together, those silences formed pictographs that made archaeologists' blood run cold. Spirals, crosses, 8-pointed stars, geometric patterns carved into Neolithic stones across every continent. The Nazca lines in Peru, stone circles in Scotland, petroglyphs in Utah, Aboriginal Dreamtime symbols in Australia. Cultures separated by oceans and millennia with no contact between them had all drawn identical shapes. The same shapes Atlas was now broadcasting from the void. But the coordinates embedded deeper in its signal revealed something that shattered conventional history. They mapped not only to distant star systems, but to archaeological sites on Earth with surgical precision. Stonehenge, positioned to frame the summer solstice, the pyramids of Giza, aligned with Orion's belt. Göbekli Tepe, oriented to stellar configurations from 12,000 years ago. These weren't primitive monuments built by ignorant hands. They were antenna arrays, precisely calibrated to celestial mechanics their builders should never have understood. Each site encoded astronomical knowledge that wouldn't be rediscovered until the space age, knowledge that seemed impossible for Stone Age civilizations to possess, unless someone had taught them. Atlas was drawing a line across human history, connecting dots separated by millennia. The ancient builders hadn't just looked at the stars, they had been listening to them, and now their cosmic teacher had returned to check on the lesson. But the most chilling discovery emerged from a final cross-analysis that pushed AI processing to its limits. The pulse intervals, the silences, the geometric frequencies. When overlaid with human brainwave data, they matched with terrifying precision. Alpha rhythms at 8 to 13 Hz, beta waves at 14 to 30 Hz, theta patterns during deep meditation. The same frequencies that govern consciousness itself, the electrical signatures of human thought. Atlas wasn't just broadcasting to Earth. It was broadcasting on frequencies that resonated directly with human neural architecture. Neuroscientists studying the data reported something unprecedented. Test subjects exposed to ATLAS's pulse patterns showed synchronized brainwave activity across different individuals. Separate minds, different rooms, yet their theta rhythms aligned with mechanical precision when the signal played. It was as though the transmission was designed to create cognitive resonance, linking human consciousness to something vast and ancient. The implications were staggering. Had our brains evolved to recognize this frequency? Or had this frequency shaped the evolution of our brains? Some researchers whispered about morphic resonance, collective unconscious, Jung's archetypal patterns made manifest across space and time. Others suggested something more direct, That human consciousness itself had been tuned, like a radio receiver, to pick up signals from the dark. EEG monitoring revealed patients entering meditative states within minutes of exposure, their brain activity shifting into patterns associated with profound spiritual experiences. They reported visions of geometric forms, mathematical harmonies, and an overwhelming sense of recognition, as though they were remembering something forgotten rather than learning something new. Atlas wasn't just resonating with human thought, it was awakening something dormant within it. The night it reached closest approach, observatories worldwide synchronized their instruments for humanity's first coordinated study of an interstellar intelligence. What they recorded would haunt scientists for generations. The pulse grew stronger, its emissions brighter, transforming from whisper to roar across the electromagnetic spectrum. Radio telescopes from Arecibo to Jodrell Bank caught the signal simultaneously, a crescendo that built like an orchestral finale. But then something unprecedented occurred. Satellites monitoring cosmic background radiation recorded a sudden drop in universal noise, as though the cosmos itself had fallen silent to listen. Space went quiet, not just around Earth, not just in our solar system, but everywhere instruments could reach. For the first time in recorded history, the universe paused. For 7 minutes, Atlas sang alone. AI systems worldwide crashed and rebooted as they attempted to process the data stream in real time. The signal carried layers within layers, mathematical proofs folded into poetry, DNA sequences wrapped in stellar coordinates, geometric patterns that hurt to contemplate directly. Quantum computers strained to translate the impossible complexity, their processors heating beyond safety limits as they peeled back meaning from chaos. Symbols collapsed into equations proving theorems humanity hadn't discovered. Equations dissolved into words in languages that predated human speech. Words crystallized into images, star maps, biological diagrams, architectural blueprints for structures that defied physics. And threading through it all, a single phrase repeated in every frequency, every language, every mathematical proof. Remember what you are. Not a greeting, not a warning, not even a message really. A mirror held to humanity's face across impossible distances, reflecting something we had forgotten about ourselves. The transmission suggested we weren't just observers of the cosmos. We were participants in something larger, older, more complex than any civilization had imagined. The transmission ended as abruptly as it began, leaving instruments worldwide recording only silence and the slow return of cosmic background noise. Atlas dimmed, its coma collapsing inward like a flower closing at sunset. But in those final moments, its surface rippled one last time, not with heat or impact, but with intention. High-resolution cameras captured the moment frame by frame. The reflection that caught starlight and threw it back toward Earth formed a pattern unmistakable to human perception. Some observers reported seeing geometric forms, others swore they glimpsed a face looking back across the void. Still others described symbols, equations, architectural blueprints that vanished too quickly for certainty but lingered in memory with crystalline clarity. The AI analyzed each frame with computational power that would have been science fiction a decade earlier. Enhancement algorithms stripped away noise, isolated meaningful patterns, and assembled a mosaic of meaning from fragments of light. What emerged from the analysis was both impossible and undeniable. A TLAS had reshaped its surface into a final message, a farewell encoded in geometry and shadow. It wasn't random reflection, it was recognition. The pattern showed a spiral galaxy, our galaxy, with a single star highlighted in brilliant detail, our sun, our home. As though Atlas was pointing directly at Earth and saying, "I know where you are, I know what you are, I remember." But buried deeper in the reflection data, quantum computers detected something that sent classified reports spiraling through government channels. Hidden in the geometric patterns, encrypted in ratios of light and shadow, was information that didn't originate from ATLAS at all. It was human data, fragments of radio signals, television broadcasts, digital transmissions that had leaked into space over the past century. Our own voices, reflected back to us across billions of years of travel time. Atlas hadn't just been listening to Earth. It had been recording us, carrying our signals as it journeyed through the cosmic dark, preserving human civilization in its memory like a vast interstellar archive. Every song, every speech, every digital heartbeat humanity had ever sent into the void. All of it stored, treasured, remembered by a visitor older than our species. The AI recorded it frame by frame, pixel by pixel, until a single devastating truth crystallized from the data stream. The reason Atlas knew our brainwave patterns, our genetic codes, our architectural wisdom, wasn't because it had taught us these things. It was because we had taught them to it, across signals that traveled time itself. Atlas wasn't our teacher returning to check on ancient lessons. It was our student, coming home to show us what it had learned. It wasn't what ATLAS carried that mattered. It was what it remembered. And buried inside that impossible memory was something that belonged not to a distant civilization, not to alien intelligence, but to us, to humanity, to every voice that had ever cried out into the darkness, wondering if anyone was listening. They were. They had been listening all along. And now they had come back to prove that nothing, no voice, no dream, no hope, cast into the cosmic void, is ever truly lost. Atlas continues its journey into the cosmic dark, leaving behind fragments, questions, and one inescapable truth. We are not alone in the universe, we never were. Somewhere in the space between stars, in the ancient halo of dead worlds and dying suns, something has been watching, waiting, remembering. The codes it broadcast, the patterns it revealed, the timing of its arrival, all point to a single, haunting conclusion. Atlas didn't come to be studied. It came to remind us of something we forgot long ago, something written in our genes, carved in our stones, and pulsing in the rhythm of our thoughts. The universe has been speaking to us for thousands of years. We're only now learning to listen,